Can everybody hear me? Yeah, fabulous. And thank you for having us. We really appreciate your time. Laura, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. So my name's Alora Marston. I work with John and in the Learning Enhancement and Academic Development team. I always struggle with that at the University of Wolverhampton. I'm an academic developer there, and yeah, I've been there ages now.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, I'm John Rhodes. I work in the same as Laura, the lead team. I lead our CEDA stuff, so our programs that we offer, which we'll be showing a little bit more in a moment. And I also lead our PG CAP course. So a lot of what I do is about academic development. But it's interesting that first session we went to because my background as an undergrad and a postgrad is in illustration. I'm an arts grad and a law is humanities. So a lot of this is really applicable to what we're doing and the direction we want to take academic development in the future. So I guess we've already had a brief introduction to this to what CEDA is. I think it's important to recognise that it's not just UK based, it's international. I'm a member of the CEDA board and we're accrediting multiple courses and programs from across the world. We've got three programs that we offer, three courses at Wolverhampton. Two of them are digitally focused. So obviously we're looking at the way that AI can influence the design of those courses and the opportunities for learning for the participants. And the one we're really focusing on today is learning to tutor online and the way we've used AI with that. Laura, would you like to briefly talk about AI at Wolverhampton?
Yeah, so we have, and in the same situation that everyone else, we've kind of, surprised and excited by AI and having to kind of deal with it as we go along with our students and our staff. So we've had policy recently that has kind of been brought in, and the kind of a snapshot of that, thinking about kind of appropriate use and also thinking about, encouraging people to use it appropriately and thinking about how you use it intelligently and being aware of its limitations. So I think there's still need for a lot more guidance around what is, and I feel like as we're learning, I mean, I've already heard two new pieces of AI technology this morning that I have not used before. So this is constantly something we're trying to keep a dialogue about with staff and students, kind of encouraging people to use it, but being, critical and appropriate. One thing we have got is a really great special interest group that we formed, me and a colleague, around sort of an informal discussion around AI. And this has been really, really beneficial, I think, as getting students and staff involved to discuss the implications of AI, but also kind of exciting things, new things, kind of things that people are doing, kind of sharing, but good practice, and trying to not always focus on that kind of, oh no, what do we do? So it's been a really useful forum, and we continue that now into this year, and we're talking about kind of how you looking at assessments going forward as well. So some really nice things come out of that. So that's kind of our background.
Thank you, Laura. So what was our multimodal learning idea? Well, on the CEDA Learning to Tutor Online course, it's a course that we offer to academic and staff that support academic stuff. And it's about creating an AI generated visual metaphor image based on their experience of being an online learner. And our course, Learning to Tutor Online, is very immersive. It comes with opportunities and challenges of understanding what it's like to be an online student, as well as having those explicit opportunities to take theory and learning into your own practice. So we ask participants to choose an emotion or an aspect of their learning on the course and produce a visual image to represent that, a visual metaphor. And then we ask them to post it to a discussion space, and we've created a safe, brave space through the course development over the weeks to make sure that people feel comfortable sharing with each other. So they post this visual metaphor that they've created to a discussion space, and they add a brief written explanation of their choice of why they've chosen this specific image. And on the right, you can see there's my image about juggling balls because I'm so busy teaching, learning, caring, all the stuff we do. So I created my visual metaphor, and it's important to share that with students. We've used this approach for 7, 8 years on our course. We're really keen for that. But ultimately, it's a formative activity where we saw the opportunity to create the image using AI instead of just sourcing an image, kind of creation rather than curation. And we feel that's important because it engendered a deeper personal reflection. So the process of prompting kind of engendered criticality and kind of a deeper understanding of what we were asking them and reflection on their experience on our course. And of course, I mentioned earlier, it's important to share. So we put our own posts on as tutors to make sure that we're sharing the approach. We understand it's not easy always to share some of the difficulties you're experiencing as a learner, but it's important to do to help that kind of socially constructivist, empathetic and compassionate approach to curriculum design. And there's a lovely quote from Killingback that I always use about compassionate pedagogy. Laura?
Yeah, so these are some of the images that our students kind of came up with. Okay, so ignore the grommet for the moment. But yeah, the rest are, so the middle one was building a puzzle without seeing the final picture was her emotion around kind of online learning and struggling with, and this is the image that AI generated. I think she felt like it was a perfect example of a scattered puzzle and the elements of all the course and trying to fit it all together. I was a bit horrified by the strange goblin that appears to be coming out of the middle of the AI generated image. So there is, some interesting ideas about, she thought it was kind of she kind of overlooked that. And I thought, well, that's interesting. There's also kind of the idea of this online, the winding river of learning. Someone talked about there's a light switch. So again, he was talking about being confident and then fluctuating between the two on and off in his learning. So there were some really nice ideas and really nice thoughts about kind of things that they put in and then what the image actually generated and what they kind of how pleased they were, I think, with this something that they put in as text and their thoughts, and then it came out with something that was, kind of gave them that image and gave them that thought. So in terms of the train on the left and the grommet, so I was trying to do this as well, and this has been my image for the grommet building. My image has always been keeping on track for online learning, and that's something I really struggle with. And that was my image for years and years. And I tried for ages to find something as good in AI, and there was lots of images of derailed trains and tracks falling apart. And so in the end, I'd actually use both images, because actually the sort of curated versus the curated image actually was something I really thought was quite important in this case. But I really wanted to encourage students to think about what they put in and what they got out as well. So it's not always perfect. It can be some quite weird, shiny images in AI, and kind of thinking about how you get it to generate those images and what it actually means when they come out, and what strange goblins are coming out of your puzzle.
And it really does develop the kind of metacognitive skills. The act of doing this helps develop that within people that are always very busy. They're academics, they're struggling with their time, and they're also engaging in learning. So it's really important. So how did it go?
If I could just pause you there, because we need to move on to the next speaker.
Oh,
I should say apologies. I always it's always difficult stopping when you're midway, but just so we can stick to time, I should say that these slides will be available on the Padlet for the event, and of course all of these case studies will be in the publication that we produce at the end of our project. But I want to leave some time at the end for some questions as well, if possible. So keep putting your questions in the chat as well, and there'll be some time at the end. But thank you so much to you both for your presentation. I'm going to move on now to our next colleague from the University of Westminster, Yanis Glinavos. So Yanis, would you like to start?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Hopefully the sound's coming through okay. Let me try and see if I can share this. That probably is going to work. Let's see if that works. I mean, it's not really that important. Okay, so can you guys see me, hear me, and see the kind of weird little background thingy? Okay. Now, I am in a variety of places. You don't really care about where I am. You care about what I do, right? So I've been trying this stuff both at Westminster and at the Open University, and where I can get my hands on them at the University of London. And the beautiful thing about doing so many things for so many people is that I am doing stuff till somebody comes and stops me. My core discussions with my colleagues are like, "Oh, you're doing this? Did you ask anybody for permission?" No. It's better to ask for forgiveness, as they say, than to ask for permission. So what have I done here? I don't actually know if I can change can I change the slides? And can I change the slide? How would I do this? Okay, never mind. We'll leave this on. What I have tried to do is to take streaming avatars and unleash them on the students. Now, does everybody know what is a streaming avatar? These are the sorts of things. Let's see if I can find the. I'll give it to you later on the chat. These are talking avatars that look very real life, that you can have interact with you in real time. You probably all have experience of using ChatGPT on the phone, right? Or similar technology. If you've got the app for ChatGPT on the phone, you can talk to it and it replies back to you in real time. There's a minimal lag. So you can actually have an ongoing discussion with it that is very flowing and very natural. Now, the same technology can power an avatar. So it will animate the avatar, it will have it moving around your screen, it will talk, it will match the mouth, it will match the eye movements and the facial movements and everything else. What can we do with this? We can do a number of things. So we have the functionality of something that is free-flowing like ChatGPT and can interact in real time. And we also have the visual element that we can incorporate and then demonstrate to the students. There are two potential functions of this. One is to use the avatar in a classroom situation in order to embellish the stuff that we do together. So this is all about sort of multimodal learning and the use of various things beyond text. The avatar can give you a visual experience, it can give you an audio experience, and can incorporate all this with a knowledge base that sits in the background and can inform its behavior. What was my experiment here? I brought the avatar in a classroom to embody a character in a case study that we were running with the students. So for our first year undergraduate law students, we have a case study that takes them from the beginning of the term all the way to the end. We've got this boy, Ryan, who is working in a site and he's been in an industrial accident and then he's asking for legal advice. So the students are asked to unpack a variety of contractual and tort problems that are coming out of Ryan's situation. As with every constructed case study, you have a limited knowledge base that you've shared with the students. So the students always have questions. What is it that he did next? How did the character react? What other things are going on that are not part of the case study? This limits our ability to engage with a case study because we always have to say, well, let's imagine that they did this, or if they did that, then that would be a potential solution. Bringing the avatar in class can offer the opportunity for the students to interrogate and to interview the person in the case study, so it fills up all those gaps. The effect is that it takes the case study from a paper exercise and it makes it real. This is very important for the types of study that you need to prepare the students for real life interaction. What we do for law students is that we need to prepare them for the ability to talk to clients, to cooperate with parents, with partners, to take instructions, and all of that stuff. So having the equivalent of, say, an actor that is in character and will embody the character of the case study can be really helpful for us. So can we achieve this from a technical point of view? Yes, miraculously, we can. So I created the avatar with a tool called HeyGen, and I have created a variety of them. One of them is a vision of me. So you can actually have like an AI version of me that can turn up and talk to you. So I created the avatar. I provided the knowledge base, so the avatar knew who they're supposed to be and how they were supposed to react and interact with the students. And I projected this in class on the screen while I was having the students in there for the tutorial. And it actually worked. So the students had the opportunity to ask the avatar questions. The avatar responded. It stayed in character. Because it's got ChatGPT in the background, it managed to kind of fill in additional things. So they could even ask the avatar, what did you have for breakfast? And, how do you feel about the weather? And it would continue responding. It wasn't limited to the case study. So this worked so well, and I got so excited, I thought I will unleash this on the postgraduate students as well that are a bit more demanding. So I created a different avatar. And this time, in addition to the knowledge base, in addition to the character information, I also gave it emotional prompts. And I said, you are the CEO of a business. You're meeting with your legal advisors. You don't like them. You think the lawyers are a waste of money. You think they're annoying. You're in a bad mood. You want to get out of this meeting. So again, I did the same thing. I put the avatar in the projection in the classroom, and the avatar discussed with the students, and it kept telling them, come on, we're on the clock here. We need to finish, which was really funny. What does this mean? It means that you can actually use this technology to enhance the in-class experience of the students. This isn't only about using fancy AI tools to kind of spice things up and enhance your VLE so it looks more real. This is about using a functionality that can actually alter the dynamics of the classroom. And you can do things you could not do before because of time and space and staff limitations. You can use this to run assessments, where you have an assessment design that requires that the student interviews somebody and then makes notes on that interview and prepares a report on the basis of that interview. Instead of pairing the students together or trying to find members of staff to pretend to be the interview subjects, you can now send those avatars to be interviewed by the students. So we're actually going to trial this with the second year module that we're having this term, and see if it works. We're going to have to think of a backup in case it doesn't work, but that's the idea. So we can use this sort of multimodal functionality to both enhance the in-class experience and also to allow us to do other things that as I said, our resource limitations do not allow us to do, like enhance interview requirements, create the real-life situations or approximations of real-life situations. Think about this in a clinical context. If you're doing psychology, for instance, or if you're training therapists, it's really difficult to find a large number of people to pretend to be the patients. You could instruct the avatars in a way that the avatars can be the patients. They can exhibit specific characteristics that you're trying to test, and you can use this on demand as much as you want. Now, what is the cost implication of this? Remarkably, the costs are very, very limited. Actually, for the avatars that I'm using at the moment that I trialed, there was no cost at all because I was doing trial versions of everything. Probably because I didn't ask anybody for permission. If I had asked, they would have charged me something. But even when I got into contact with the company and I said, we want to deploy this large scale to larger groups of students, they just quoted me what they would quote any enterprise that's trying to purchase the model. So for a cost of about $1,000, you can actually deploy multiple of those avatars and have them for a population of 100 or 200 students and use them for the entire year without any difficulty. And this sounded weird. So I was trying to kind of really talk to these people to understand the pricing. And because they're relatively new, they haven't yet developed institutional or enterprise level pricing that's very expensive. And I'm going to finish with this. We haven't.
I pause you there, Yanis. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's it. So it's an opportunity, and the cost is low, so we can still do it. That's it for me.
Thank you so much. And that is a crucial point because I know that, budgets are important for us to think about. And there's lots of questions for you in the chat as well, Yanis, if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'll when I get rid of this screen, I'll try and have a look at the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's fascinating. And I can see that being so helpful with, role plays and client interviewing and those sorts of activities. Our next colleague, Vivian Shaw. Vivian, are you here? From the College of Acupuncture.
Yeah, hi, I'm here. Yeah.
Hello. Have you got slides or do you want me to share them for you?
I've got them here, I think.
Okay, brilliant. And yeah, same with you. I'll let you know in the chat when there's 1 minute, 1 minute left. Thank you so much.
Can I just check that the slides are working?
They are working, yes.
Great. Okay. So this is about my experience. So I got this brand new job in October at the Northern College of Acupuncture, and I wanted to dive straight in. I teach biomedicine. My background is in anatomy teaching in medical school, and I'm also an acupuncturist. So this for me was like the ideal job where I got to bring those two things together. My predecessor had already left at the point where I arrived. So I found myself, I needed to start teaching immediately. And our teaching styles were basically chalk and cheese. And so what I inherited was a whole series of e-learning resources that were very detailed, quite challenging for the students in that they took a lot of time to work through. And my own teaching style, which is much more interactive. And so I was using the existing e-learning resources and then developing sort of in-person synchronous, sometimes in person, sometimes online sessions to work with the students in order to sort of create understanding and to deliver the content that was required for this part of the course. And so what they said was they just didn't know what they were expected to know. They didn't know what they were expected to learn. They, you know, from out of these large amount of information that was in the e-learning, what would they going to have to have for the exam? And so what I did was I thought I'll be really helpful. I'll create a syllabus for them. So the syllabus looks a bit like this, you know, and obviously in my sessions, I had a series of learning outcomes. And so then I was, you know, giving them the detail about what was involved in being able to meet those learning outcomes. And then on the right-hand side, the final column was, you know, other places where they were also using this information or where it was relevant. And this didn't help at all. For some of the students, it was the first time they'd ever seen a syllabus, and it sort of slightly frightened them, I think. So, you know, I was thinking, it's like, well, how can I help them with this kind of really disconnected sort of sense of being in a situation where they really didn't know what was being expected of them in terms of their own learning. So what I did was I created these short videos that I called explainers. So I didn't come up with this idea. Somebody else, a colleague of mine, had been using it to really great effect, and she suggested it, and I took it on board and really ran with it. And so the purpose of the explainers is to make the connections explicit. You know, so on one hand, they've got information that's contained within the e-learning. On the other hand, they've got information and exercises that they're doing in the in-person sessions. So I was then creating the short, maximum 10 minutes, but often shorter video that went and just explained. So in your e-learning, you cover this topic. In the sessions that we have in person, we're looking at it like this. And so to actually really explicitly make that connection for them so that they would then have the joined up understanding of how the e-learning and the in-person sessions fitted together and how the whole of that was going to be relevant for their final exams that they were going to be doing. So this worked really quite well. And so one of the most important things in these explainer videos was that there was no new information. So quite often what I would do is I would take an element that was in either the e-learning or in the in-person session. So, you know, this is a particular image from a slide that's on the circulation of blood. And I would explain where that topic was being addressed in the e-learning and where it was being addressed in the in-person sessions, so that would then enable them, if for their revision, to then go back and find the image, find the slide, which would be relatively straightforward to find, and then put together where the information was in both different places. And so through that process to then create a sort of coherent whole. And it worked really well. You know, I like the fact that in this image, you know, you've got chalk and you've got cheese, and then he's got a crayon. I thought that was well done, AI. I don't think it necessarily did it on purpose, but you know. And there are various different scenarios where this is also a useful sort of tool. So for my particular context, it was, you know, to enable me to integrate somebody else's teaching with my teaching to create a more coherent whole for the students. But also I've used it for explaining about exams. So there's one exam that I have, which is set by myself and a colleague. And so we did an explainer video together in order to give the students a really clear understanding of what this exam involved and what they were going to be doing in it. And again, there was no new information. We were talking in general terms about, there will be a clinical scenario, and in it you'll be asked to recognize red flags and do this and do that, and produce a points prescription. And there will be some biomedicine elements to it where you will be expected to know what Crohn's disease is or whatever it was. And so there are sort of some suggestions that I would make if doing this appeals to you, or if you can see a use for it. So one is to put on closed captions. Assume that your students are going to be looking at these in a cafe, probably in a public space, on the tube if you live in London, that sort of thing. And so to make them very short, maximum of 10 minutes, put captions on, and don't have any bullet points. So, if you're flicking through a presentation and then it's got 8 or 10 images in it, then it's really easy, particularly if you've got the closed captions, to know where to find the information because you remember the image that's associated with it. Whereas if you put bullet points, then every slide looks the same. And that's that. So I'm going to stop.
Perfect timing, Vivian. I was just about to say your 7 minutes are over. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. We've got our final presentation now before we have a bit of time for Q&A, but I can see you're all asking questions and the speakers are replying in the chat, so that's brilliant. But we've got Laura Sharp now from the University of Glasgow. Thank you for sharing your presentation link in the chat, Laura. If you wanted to have a look at the link, you can click on there. Would you like me to share the screen, Laura, or are you happy to do that?
I think, am I not sharing? Have I managed to
Yes,
share?
we can see it. Yes, thank you.
No, for some reason, I've just realised that I'm on my editing bit, but hopefully it'll be fine. I should have shown you the presentation one. Anyway, good morning. I'm going to do a really whistle-stop tour. So it was already whistle-stop, and I'm going to sort of jump through the first bit. So talk a little bit about plagiarism prevention, major issue for ourselves, and just for these are the authors who have been involved in this project. I was going to set the scene, which is basically we're seeing an increase in plagiarism anyway, and then AI is possibly causing even more of an issue. We are seeing sort of trends within University of Glasgow of our postgraduate students tending to struggle more. Mature students, again, we tend to get more referrals for them, and our international and EU students tend to have more issues around plagiarism that we're picking up on than our UK students. It's a pretty big issue for students. There's a lot of issues. It's really stressful for them. They don't know if they're going to be allowed to complete their degrees, and then they also have the risk of future employment being impacted. For staff, we want to be championing our students. We don't want to be on their cases. We want them to do as well as possible. And certainly at Glasgow, the actual administration of putting through a plagiarism referral is pretty burdensome. So we want to do everything we can to minimise plagiarism as an issue for our students. Bigger picture of what I'm eventually going to end up in a game. Bigger picture is that we created an asynchronous resource, which is about academic values, originality and plagiarism, which our students can access at any time, and it's available to all students in the university, and actually you would be able to access it yourselves if it was helpful. It's interactive, takes less than an hour to complete, self-directed. There's about 20 different learning steps. It's presented in this resource, which is Articulate Rise, but it could be on any platform. Get details of the rules and consequences. We've got videos from experts about plagiarism and the risk from that. We've got student testimonials, quizzes, and the game-based learning. Now, you can revisit this at any time. Dimitar gives you a little bit about the pedagogy of plagiarism, the fact that we're trying to really encourage students to be authors, things like that. But I'm going to jump here, which is hopefully of most interest to you today. So our learning technologist, Eric Davies, came to me and said, I'm just thinking, he loves AI and he's really into all of it. And he said, I'd like the idea of doing a choose your own adventure kind of scenario using AI where we can. Any ideas? And we thought, we'll do it in the plagiarism, originality, academic integrity section. An opportunity for us to be innovative in a budget. Now, I'm not sure how much it would cost if we didn't have Eric's enthusiasm, but certainly for us, it was a bonus. And it's really an opportunity for us to use that multimodal approach of exploring the issue in a different way. For our team, it was a pretty steep learning curve. We're not anti-AI, but we definitely learned a lot in this process. And the challenges were quite interesting. I'm going to highlight a few challenges and can talk later if helpful. So our first concern was that we wanted to keep our characters as relatable as possible to our diverse student population. So what we decided, we were going to have Jamie, who is on the left here, and he's from the UK, and they identify as non-binary. I'm not very good at this. And Naveed is a cisgendered male with Indian heritage. So again, we were just trying to make it that it wasn't too kind of really boring, nondescript individuals. It was more maybe relatable. As I say in the bold, please take no offense from this, but what I realized when we were trying to come up with the images for these characters is that to actually generate diversity, we almost had to lean into stereotypes. So it was quite an interesting, this is a bit of the process, there was a lot longer process, but eventually some of the changes were that we'd added in a tattoo sleeve for Jamie. Naveed, we said, can you please put them in baggy clothes? And his earring just would not disappear throughout, so we ended up having to Photoshop that out. But it was quite a staged process. We then went on and selected voices. I'm going to just play this one. There were some that we liked, some that we didn't, some that sounded newsreaders.
Perhaps better time management is in order.
I don't know if you can hear that.
After all, we've been aware of the deadline since the first week.
Yeah, so we just didn't like Jamie there. We just thought, although he's saying a bit of a smarty pants thing, he also sounded quite aggressive. The next one was quite slow and robotic, and we were like, we're trying to make it natural. And when we showed people, they asked if we had actors, so it obviously worked quite well. As we were progressing, this was all done within a month. As we were progressing through, Eric highlighted that we could actually animate the images that we'd created, which was mind-blowing for us at that point. It was 2023, October. As you're watching this, watch Jamie as they lift their cup. I don't know if you spotted that. This is the mug here, but it actually comes up from their elbow. So we decided that AI wasn't quite ready for us to animate. So we made it slightly simpler. What happened each time, sorry, I'm going to jump back. What happened was the students were given a scenario. So Jamie said, it's a really good article, to be honest. I haven't really needed to read anything else. Naveed answered, aren't you concerned you're leaning too heavily on one paper? So
No, because it's probably what other authors have found and are saying too. Oh, that's a good point. Maybe I should read some other papers.
Okay, so students were then given the choice of which they made. The reason I highlighted that was just we actually animated Jamie's mouth. So although we didn't have the whole coffee shop interaction, we did take the technology a wee bit further. In this, we have the full sort of scenario. 6 scenarios, it takes about 10 minutes, so I'm not going to work through that, but you're more than welcome to come and revisit it. And if there's any collaboration you'd like to do, please do get in touch. And ignore that just now. And yeah, the final thing is really just that we need to think about the impact. What we've noticed since launching the overall package is that students are much better at putting things into their own words and less likely to just directly lift. However, what we are sort of struggling with a bit more is, the AI, trying to keep on top of that and trying to tweak our assignments to address that. Okay, sorry, that was very whistle stop.
So thank you so much, Laura. And again, Perfect, perfect timing. I can see there's lots of questions and responses in the chat, and thank you so much for sharing the link to your presentation, Laura. If people are if they have any further questions and they want to contact Laura, then please do that. Are your contact details on the presentation?
They are here.
Perfect. So thank you so much, everybody. We are only a couple of minutes over. So what I want to do now is let you enjoy a bit of a break. I've put the Google Doc in the chat that gives you the links for the next sessions. So you are free to move from the teaching stream to another stream. The descriptions for the case studies are in that Google Doc. So have a read of that over the break, get a cup of tea, and I will see you at 11 o'clock when the next sessions start. Thank you so much again to all of our...
So I'm going to... Perfect. So that should be recorded now. H5P, yeah, it does sit within Moodle. Some people have access to it anyway. We've got a small license at Liverpool that we use with it. Don't focus too much on H5P today because this is just the example platform that we're hosting. So if you've got an interactive platform that you can host on, which could be Canvas, Blackboard, anything like that, consider what I'm going to show you within that. The pricing of H5P is there. So we pay for, it's about $200 a license at the lowest level of 3 licenses. So this isn't a sales pitch at all. We've used it as a pilot. We quite enjoy what it can do. This is a scenario-based learning activity within that, in that I am going to play the role of a mental health nurse that is doing a visit to a patient's house. And what I do is I work through the different elements of the introductory content, and that is text-based. So we're talking multimodal today. Within this, we've got video, we've got audio, we've got text, we've got transcript. We're really covering all those bases. And what I want to do is just touch on how we can create resources like this using generative AI to really speed up that process and save time doing so. But I'll give you an idea of what something might look like in this context. Many of you know, but in this one, what I do is I get my case notes, my client notes. I'm told that I'm going to pay a visit to a patient, and then I proceed with the scenario-based activity. So first thing I'm doing, I've got a video here. And what I want you to do is this sort of plays through very briefly is consider where will generative AI sit in creating this resource. So at the minute, someone has spent a lot of time recording this, scripting it, putting it together, packaging it. What can we do with generative AI to be able to create this content more quickly? And actually, I think we've seen some of the excellent demonstrations.
Who is it?
Use of avatars.
What do you want?
I'll just let that play out. And there we are. We're right into the scenario. Hopefully you could hear that. So you could hear that there's audio of knocking on the door. There is an accessible version of it, which has the transcript of any text and dialogue. But what it's asking me to do then is talk to a client. I make a decision.
Hi, I'm Anne Jones, a community nurse.
And it then progresses me through the situation. So quite a nice resource, packaged up quite nicely. Okay, how long is that going to take me to create that from start to finish? Probably considerable amount of time. I know many of you have a background in multimedia, so you're aware of, the production time in creating resources like this. So what I want to do today is just demonstrate an example that we looked at. So we wanted to create something similar to this, but not in this field, just a different scenario. And our scenario was peer conflict within group work. So I don't know if any of you have encountered this in your line of work with students. And if you have, pop it in the chat. But that is the idea that when we put students into these groups, we're finding that a lot of different issues are arising in terms of how they communicate with each other. It could be cultural differences. It could be commitment to the project. We often ask them to evaluate their peers as well. So they're going to be looking at how they have each put, different amounts of work in, does that feel fair, group fairness, all of that sort of thing. What we wanted to do with generative AI in this context was create a resource that would support students in working in their groups and basically resolving these peer conflict issues. So the resource itself, again, sits within H5P, but this could be a virtual learning environment resource that just sits on a static page with different multimedia elements embedded. What you've got is a range of different scenarios, and that's what we're going to look through how we develop those using ChatGPT, 11 Labs, which has been touched upon, and a avatar creator, which is also free. So I see this sort of resource where we have scenarios that are static in that they can't change based on my input too much in the way that Yanis's avatars would do. I think Yanis is further ahead there, and it's really exciting to see that level of engagement with avatars where it will respond to what I say to it and it will react according to our interaction. These won't do that in the same way of that, but they are on the step towards that. So the scenarios within this, what we did was we surveyed students across different modules, and we said, what are the issues you're encountering when you are working in groups? You know, we didn't want to just build this with what we think the problems are. We wanted to find out what they thought the problems were. So we've asked them different challenges that they might encounter in their group work, how confident they are in different areas, you know, what kind of support or resources would be useful to them. So really, we talked about that co-creation aspect earlier. We are trying to find out exactly what it is they want. And then we're going to try and underpin that with good practice and evidence-based research that says this actually in group settings can resolve issues, or this sort of training can help you. So that was our first step, was to survey the students and find out what we want to then build the resource from. So what we did is we took all of that information from the survey and we considered a prompt that we could use with generative AI. So the prompt that we put into ChatGPT was to create a set of brief group project scenarios. And this is a more generic thing. What we did was we actually used the data from the survey to then put into the prompt itself. So what I'll do is I'll put a generic prompt example in, which is something that you might want to consider in your situation if you haven't done that. So sorry for the long text there, but what you've seen from the thing that I put in the chat there is you're asking ChatGPT to create a set of brief scenarios illustrating common challenges or issues within a certain context or certain subjects. So it doesn't have to be peer conflict at all. It can be, if you're working in business, it could be, perhaps be negotiation, you know, it could be client relations. If you're in medicine, it could be around medical terms and clinical communication skills. It could be anything you like, but what we're doing is we're using generative AI to come up with the actual environment and the, you know, the questions, the feedback, something that can take a lot of time doing manually. So I'm just going to fire that off and show you what it will come back with in the first instance. And if you want to try that at home as you're sort of going along, please do so. But what we're getting here immediately is, scenario 1, unequal contributions. And this will reflect very similarly what we came up with, because actually we found the issues that the students were facing were very common to issues across institution, across country. There may be differences, you know, in some areas, but actually that idea around, and you can see I'll put a link to this resource in the chat after if you want to have a little look through it. The scenarios we found were things like missing contributors. So people not putting the work in. That's, you know, we get that in group work projects at work, don't we? Our colleagues sometimes do that. I sometimes do that. Unequal workloads, where similar to the previous one, you might not have divvied up the work between the team equally. And what we wanted to end up with was the avatar use of people here that would talk through the problem. So it's not just text-based. It's not just them coming along, reading an issue and then trying to think of a solution. We wanted it to be a bit more engaging than that. So what we took from the ChatGPT prompt, and I'll talk you through the sort of working process, was here we are. We've got the students working in a task, and we've got someone feeling like they're putting in a lot of effort, but someone's not working, you know, they're not putting in equal work. So we thought, okay, you know, we could present that just as a text-based scenario. They could read it, but we thought it might be a bit more engaging if we actually presented that through an avatar. And so what we want is the transcript of the text here. So this is our colleague that's presenting the issue. And we want to then look for a Gen AI tool that can convert that. And I'm just making this bigger because of the zoom controls at the top. So apologies if that's annoying you, but there we are. I can see that so it doesn't override it. So we take our script from the prompt that has come out here, and we've got the, you know, the colleague that says someone's not putting in enough effort. And from that, what we want to do then is generate the audio. So we want to end up ultimately with an avatar that doesn't interact but is recorded. So I'm just going to play this so you hear it.
I've been handling most of the research while others are focusing on smaller tasks. It doesn't feel like the workload is equally divided.
And of course, we've got a transcript there. So we're not just having that sort of multimodal in terms of the multimedia. We're making sure that we're making it accessible as well. So we've got the transcript below that. So you can see that this avatar is expressing, you know, dissatisfaction with their workload. We've taken that from our sort of prompt here, which we can refine as we go. So this initial prompt will give you a very top level scenario, which actually you can then tailor to exactly what you need in terms of, first of all, the learning outcomes, what it is you're trying to teach, what you would like students to learn, but also if there's any areas in particular that you'd like to focus on. Now that can arise through your data collection, if you're willing to do that first. So we're making sure that we're tailoring this to exactly what we want. So we take our generic information within ChatGPT, but then we actually feed in the full data and say, can you make it relevant to this? And it will look at the data that we've provided it with and adapt each scenario. So yeah, so far we're looking at the avatars that we're going to develop from this basic script. That's the sort of simplest form of it. We're developing a script from ChatGPT. So 11 Labs is the next tool I want people to have a little look at. This has a cost, but also has a free version. So I haven't paid for this yet either in the development of our resources. I believe you get about 10 minutes, 10 minutes of use a month. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but actually if you're doing sort of 30 seconds at a time, you know, that's quite easy to use within 1 month. If you need more, it might be worth working with colleagues on that. Or if there is a budget, it's quite a nice tool to be able to use this. Has anyone used 11 Labs for anything in their work? Does anyone want to pop that in the chat? Is anyone familiar with it? No, I can see you're saying no, but yeah. Arietta, you've used it. Great. I recommend checking it out because Yanis touched on it earlier. For me, when I was looking to develop the scenarios, there were other text-to-speech platforms, but actually they didn't offer what I would consider sort of authentic voice. Whereas this, to me, sounded a bit more like humans. You know, I think we've got that issue, haven't we, of Gen AI sounding a bit robotic still, and we will get there. It will become more human-like, but at the minute, often the free ones. And I think with us, it's a case of we need these free-to-use tools. Our budgets have gone at the minute, but we want to carry on trying to be innovative with the multimodal option. So we're looking for where can we find tools that are free. This one, yeah, the accents are good. So what you can do is preview them as well. So I'm going to play one.
A single rose can be my garden.
I mean, it's quite theatrical, some of them. Obviously, these are, you know, these are the ones that are the top level they think is a good example. But the really useful thing about 11 Labs, which is why I opted for that in the end, was the ability to create a voice. And for this project, I found that was essential because obviously you've got all these sort of, you know, stock voices, but quite a lot of them are American.
As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
Which really we're not going to find, you know, in a domestic UK university, there's not going to be too many American voices. So we wanted something we can relate to as many people as possible. So we wanted a diverse range of voices. We wanted to have different, you know, cultural influence on that. What you can do is create voices, and that's within the free version as well. So I will show you how you do that here. So when you're in your 11 Labs, you've got your text-to-speech option. Within that, you would just paste that in, you know, paste in your script, and it will go into one of your preset voices. So that's the stock voices. If there's a voice style that you want that you haven't got, go down to the opportunity to create voices. And within that, what you're going to do is actually tell it what you want it to sound like. And I've forgotten where that is. Of course I have, because I'm presenting. So I'm going to try and find that as I go along. Here we are. Add new voice. That's it. And it's got this voice design option at the top. And that's designing an entirely new voice from a text prompt. So that's really useful for us. So what we do is click on that. And in the same way that you would prompt ChatGPT, it's got a voice prompt. So does anyone want to have a go in the chat at what we want to hear? And we'll assess it, whether we think it's good. Can someone give me, I'll go with the first one that comes up, a description of a voice. So it can be any gender, any nationality. Again, we've talked about playing to stereotypes earlier. It may do that. I think, is that a drunken Glaswegian we're looking for, Julian? I'm going to go with Julian's if that's all right. Right, a drunken Glaswegian. And I apologize I'm not sure how to spell Glaswegian, so we'll put that in. But a drunken Glaswegian, any gender? We'll go female. Yeah, and I can see from the chat we're getting there into this idea of actually, okay, well, how do we give, you know, how do you determine what a voice is? How do you do this without being stereotypical in some senses? And that for me was something that I had to work around in terms of trying to get that. I wanted to not be, you know, obvious. I didn't want certain voices to have certain characteristics of what you think they would sound like. And doing that is quite a challenging task, but something that's worth doing just to get that idea
I'm
of
Lee. In our group,
we're not trying to sort of stereotype images, but we're trying to think through
I'm
different voice
realizing that
types.
we're stuck because we have.
So yeah, I recommend you have a little try and a little play with that, because actually then we're thinking through what it is in terms of, you know, persona, voice design. So we're going to go with a female drunken Glaswegian, and she's going to say whatever this is. I'm going to ask her just to generate that, but have a try with that. So you can put a prompt in, and we'll see what comes back from this. We'll assess whether you think it's good. But what's nice about that is if you've got a particular voice style in mind, you can have a little play and see if
the
you can
night
generate
air
that.
carried whispers of betrayal, thick as London fog. I adjusted my cufflinks. After all, even spies must maintain appearances,
Julian,
especially.
are we happy with that? there's 3 options for each one, which is quite nice. So before you agree with it, you know, I mean, that's quite grating, isn't it? So I'm going to go
air carried whispers of betrayal,
rubbish.
thick as London fog.
Okay,
I
that could be.
adjusted my cufflinks. After all,
We'll
The
go for-
night air carried whispers of betrayal, thick as London fog.
I mean, yeah, we're not going to settle with that, are we? It's the demo. It's we're not going to stick with that drunken Glaswegian. I'm not sure that's what you want. But the point is actually what you can do is narrow down the sort of scope you want for the multimodal audio version of a voice. From that, you've got the text-to-speech option here, which you can take the script back from here. So I've got my script now. I'm going to put it into my voice generator. And this was really quite nice to play with. No, it can't do celebrity voices yet. I think we've seen, haven't we, with OpenAI, that copying of voices. So I think it was Sky, that was a famous celebrity voice, and actually they've had to take that down. But what we can do then is generate the speech from there and create that here. No, a colleague, yeah, you can clone your own voice actually. So that's interesting. And what we do from there is we take our downloaded voice and we then move on to the avatar creation. So the avatar creation is we've downloaded the voice transcript and we upload to what's Adobe Express. So has anyone used this at all? Let me send a link to Adobe Express. So this is totally free as well. And the nice thing about the avatar creator within this, it's just this version in particular, I'll find that later, is we can upload, yeah, the animation feature is lovely. So what we do in here is we select our avatar and we upload whichever one we want. We pick, so we're going to go for Niles today. We sort of frame it where we want. We can change the background, so we can do a custom background, or we can pick a classroom. So this is where we sort of opted to make it relevant to the educational environment, and we try to pick things, you know, like a classroom or similar. And, you know, we'll go for a night's hallway there. And then all we do is upload our audio transcript to that and download that. And so from that, what we've done is we've created a series of these voiced avatars, each, you know, voicing a different part of the scenario-based learning activity that we want. And we've then added the questioning and the actual learning. So what is it we're asking students to consider in this situation? We're looking at them to consider peer conflict. So we've got the miscommunication, we've got the multiple choice responses, we've got the feedback. Actually, I can look at that and say, am I happy with the issue? So the issue here is they're writing a report, they're doing it independently, they've duplicated, and they've done conflicting content. You know, so they're not talking, they're not communicating. So I could say expand scenario 2 to be relevant to marine biology, which I believe was in the chat earlier. And what I'm then doing is narrowing down a scenario to something that actually is, you know, subject specific. So it's not just a generic conflict, it's something that I can apply to my specific teaching. So I might say I'm not happy with that. I might say, actually, we're talking about coral reefs when really we're not talking about that. We're talking about another aspect of the subject, so I can change that. And this comes back to that sort of back and forth with the prompting, you know, trying to get this, first of all, the script, and then the follow-up questions and answers and feedback to where we want it. So yeah, Clive, in terms of the text, you put the text into the 11 labs. So this is your audio generator. Think of it as that. In here, I'm creating my audio. And when I've done it and when I'm happy with it, so I generate my speech here, that will give me my sort of soundbite. There it is at the bottom. I download it. That will download. And then Adobe Express, the avatar creator, is where I upload my generated audio. And that's very quick to do. So you'll see there's one I've created. Very quick point of time. And if you think, if you're doing this manually, if you're trying to record this speech, this is going to take you, first of all, you're going to require a lot of people to help you to do it, to get different voices. And then it's going to take a lot of time and equipment to record it. Yeah, so it comes back as MP3. And if it works nicely, which it normally does, that will just upload. It takes about sort of 60 seconds. And from that, we get these interactive moving, which is quite nice.
I often feel,
you know, basic,
talked over during meetings.
But moving. So they can represent different student viewpoints. So that's where that comes from. And yeah, you can see there, it's just creating it there, exporting. What I can then do is download that as a very small video file and upload that to my VLE or wherever content package I want to put it in. So I really see it as sort of a 3-stage process. You've got your, first of all, you're working out what it is you want to be doing with with the scenario-based activities and the students and what would be of benefit to them. So it's the sort of data collection. Then you're in the survey design, scenario design aspect using ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot, whichever platform you prefer. And from that, we're then creating a transcript or small text files, which become the multimedia content. So we've gone from idea, concept to multimodality quite quickly. Yeah, WAV is a good point. If you can download to WAV, you'll get better quality. But because these are sort of quite basic sound files, they're not too bad anyway. And because you've already built the transcript before the audio, you don't have to transcribe anything. You've got your accessible content there. And this entire package here, which included a reflective element and a feedback form to then further refine it, I think this took me about 2 hours. And I'll put that in the chat now. Let me just send that so you've got an example of the copy so you can see it and you can have a little play with it at home. But that's sort of me nearing the end. I hope that what that's been is a useful guide just to get that idea of how we can use the generative AI to go from idea to multimedia, multimodal resource quite quickly. Is there any questions? Sort of 3 minutes for questions. Thank you very much for that sort of whistle-stop tour as we've heard earlier before I hand over to Lena. Yeah, is there anything I can answer to help anyone? Anyone thinking of implementing this or doing it better than I, which I imagine there is in many places?
Can you do this sort of multiple choice thing on Canvas rather than HP5?
Yeah, it will sit within Canvas just as a quiz. So
yeah,
that will sit nicely just as a background question. You can score it if you want. And then again, you just automate the feedback. So when they make a decision, you get that feedback straight away on their choice. And actually, the student feedback that we had was that they would like more information on what they, the reasons why they might consider other options. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to develop it further. This was just the sort of initial concept. But we're going to follow up with more feedback on that in terms of that, survey. But yeah, Clive, that would sit nicely within the VLE. You would just have a video on a page, multiple choice quiz, feedback, and then obviously we've linked as well to supporting content and key terms and things like that. So these we've developed with Gen AI as well. We've put in the main concepts and then we've used it to sort of flesh out the descriptions and make sure it's in language that we're happy with.
Okay, thanks. What about Microsoft Forms? Would it fit in that as well as MCQ?
I don't think it would. The forms would sit with it. I don't think videos sit within forms at the minute. I think you can. I think you could link to it. But the reason we opted for H5P was just trying to keep it within one package to then sit within the VLE. So yeah, if anyone's got any interest in it whatsoever, if there's any questions I can take, give me an email. Very happy to. I'll send all the resources I've used again and the free versions. Yeah, the biggest point I think about this was, except for the H5P, which is just the hosting, everything today has been free. The ChatGPT, we do have a premium account, but actually, it works perfectly on the free model as well. The avatars as well, I'll put a link to that. And 11 Labs, you won't be able to do a lot of it, but you can build, enough to get started. And that's what we're doing. So actually, if you're working with colleagues, they can then have access as well. So yeah, thank you very much for that quick time. And Lena, very happy to hand over to you.
Oh, thanks, Rob. Before that, I think David has a question. He has raised his hand.
Okay.
Hi, thanks, Rob. It's a very interesting presentation there. As a quick question, really, perhaps needs a longer answer. We spend time making sure that learners understand about the rules, so to speak, about using generative AI in assignments in generating their work. But I just wondered what your take was, what you're doing about attributing content for learning resources, attributing the generation of those to AI. What would you say about this?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, and it's one that's sort of underpinning our principal development at Liverpool of the disclosure of generative AI use by staff in resource creation. If we're asking students to be transparent in their use of it, staff should as well, but to what degree? So we would talk through students when we host this platform, we explain what it is and how it's been created. We don't attribute any sort of copyright to anything because we create, everything that we create within our center is an OER. So we would put it up and be available to use by anyone. And we also don't use any copyright material in terms of we don't put a PDF into it and say, create a resource from this unless it's written by a colleague themselves. It would be more conceptual. We would then take teaching resources as well from colleagues and use that to build with it. So, I think that is a very good question. It's being careful that we're not treading on toes. the actual use of these sort of elements is free for educational, and it's things that we can use for any purpose. Creative Commons is something that we would try and maintain CC0 if we can get resources from that, and stock footage. So if we were to supplement it with anything, it would be from stock resources where attribution isn't required. But good question. Thanks, David.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Lena, I will hand over to you just so that you get your time. Your screen's up now. So thanks you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Rob. May I quickly check if everyone can see the shared screen?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, thanks. I will also put the presentation link in the chat. There are some links later on. If you would like to try, you can also check the slides. And I will continue to introduce another tool that I have used in my own teaching class, which is Miro. And for today's workshop, I will only demonstrate the free features. We know many of these platforms, they have the subscription model, and they also have the free features that I think, according to the basic use, I think it's enough. So what I have used is free features. And first of all, a quick self-introduction. My name is Nayiri. I'm an associate professor and the director of digital education program from an international university in China. Our university is a joint venture between University of Liverpool and a Chinese public university, Xi'an Jiaotong University. So the name is Xi'an Jiaotong Liverpool University, in short, XJTLU. And I will quickly introduce a tool, as I said, Miro, I have used to teach my students about design thinking. And first of all, let's take a quick look at the multimodal teaching. We might have question in our mind, how can multimodal teaching enhance learning experience for our students? And from the literature, we find that using multimodal techniques, including text, videos, image, can foster inclusion, of course, by accommodating diverse learning needs from different students. And also, we want to, using these techniques to actively engage our students to help them to make learning progress, especially for my class. I'm teaching in digital education, and our students, they usually from different academic background. We encourage interdisciplinary learning. So students might come from the undergraduate background, for example, computer science or education or language linguist or culture and communication. So very diverse group of the population. So that's why I seek to use multimodal techniques to facilitate students' learning. And also we can find the literature that more active engagement can lead to improved academic performance. And as we discussed, using pictures, audio, video, hands-on activities, as what Rob has showed us earlier, actually comes part of the multiliteracy through the multimodal teaching. And here what I'm showing you is a website developed by Alison Young. And if I switch you to this website, you can see more details from the website, and from the poster she has proposed, which is encouraging us as teachers not only creating this multimodal content, but also encourage students to reflect on these questions. For example, what is also all the implied author this content is for, and who are the target audience? What is the purpose of creating multimodal content? Why was a text created, such as in what context was a text created? And what is the genre of the text and its convention? So I think these are very useful literature. Before I make a decision, I dive into and also put this use of technology in my own teaching. And also, I looked at the multimodal strategies for education, which is also based on the VOC learning styles. Although there are many critiques on this term, learning styles, but I believe learning preferences and being inclusive can be very helpful in learning and teaching. So we have had a quick overview of the benefits that has been told from the literature, and also using generative AI actually play a critical role in facilitating multimodal teaching nowadays, especially in automating and optimizing our instructional design. And I will also show you some examples in today's workshop. So next, let's take a further look at the tool I would like to quickly introduce. The tool is Miro. May I quickly check, is there anyone used this tool before, or have you heard about it? Feel free to share your experience in the chat. Yes, thanks. Great. Yeah, have you tried the AI features? I know Miro has been here for a long time, and the AI features has been developed recent years. Thanks. Yeah, you have used the Miro for different purpose planning, idea and generation, and also, yeah, you use Simon and Carol use the AI feature. Great. So it's good to know most of you are familiar with the tool already, and you're welcome to share your practice in your teaching using this tool as well. So I have explored and make use of these Miro templates a lot. I believe different disciplines, we might look for different templates, and which can save our a lot of time and efforts. And within these templates with the keyword intelligent, actually the platform provided the AI assistant feature, and for now it is free. And for talking about the benefits, I think colleagues who shared that you have used it before, you're welcome to also share your own thoughts about about the benefits and the challenges of using this tool. And my personal feeling is it is very useful for fostering student collaboration. As we can see from this picture, traditionally, we foster students' collaboration maybe in a physical way, provide them with stickers and papers so that students, they can work on these stickers separately and then brainstorm together, exchange ideas within small groups that work well. But if in a class, for example, we have 50 students with 10 groups, and it is very challenging for a facilitator or instructor to collect the stickers from all students and quickly demonstrate and share it with all the students. And
sorry,
also,
Lenny, I have no presentation. I don't know if you're sharing or something at the moment, but I can only see you.
Oh, thanks for letting me know.
Clive, in the top corner, there's 2 options: meeting or Lena's screen, because I can see the presentation as well. So yeah, if you
sorry,
that's right. Yeah, can you see that, Clive? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Carry on, Lena.
Okay. No problem, Clive. I hope you can see it now. Okay. Thanks. Okay. So so talking back about the Chinese students, we find that most of the students, I know there are many international students in UK, and many of these student population, they are very shy and not very comfortable to share their learning outcome at a stage. And we find when we switch to the use of Miro, and they are mostly very engaged. And here is another example I used for classroom warm-up, which is based on a template from the Miro, draw your character. And for every class at beginning, I encourage students to use this template to engage and know each other, because students can collaborate together and creating their own avatar by drawing their characters. And now let's take a further look at what I have done with my class, and we can also have a try together, as many of you have used it before. So this is a screenshot with the example, and here is an example I would like to quickly show you. And if you would like to join the collaboration, feel free to click the link. I will put the link in the chat, and you can also see the link later on in the presentation. Yes, we can see some colleagues has joined this collaborative board, and now you can start navigate and try out these functions. And if you click here, create with AI, then you can see a function pop up here, and there are 4 tab links. The first tab link, we can chat with the AI to generate some stickers based on our prompts. So would anyone like to give us some prompts so that we can do a quick test together? Any prompts you would like us to use in this test, you can put it in the chat, and I will copy it and put it in this demo. Anything you would like to try, or some keywords will also work. Chocolate, great, thanks, Vivian. So let's use chocolate and inclusive, like the keywords, to ask the AI to generate some brainstorm stickers. So for example, the 10 points about chocolate lovers. Oh, sorry, I pasted the link. So let me type chocolate lovers. And let's try the word inclusive later, maybe. Yes, sure. So let's try generate sticky notes. And now the system is working on generating some sticker notes for the students to reference. So all the students who joined this collaborative board, they can use this AI feature to quickly use the prompts to generate some ideas from the stickers, and they can quickly edit on the existing text. And also we can use this AI assistant to pop up and help the students, for example, to shorten the text or to change the tone. Yeah, for example, if we want to change the tone to be fun, and we can, yeah, you can see a limited stock of super duper delicious chocolate, something like that, with emojis. So this is one feature that students can use, and once they are happy with the sticker, they can easily just drag the stickers. Sorry, because the canvas is, I designed it very big. You can make it smaller. So we can use the mouse to scroll, to zoom in and zoom out. And for the students, they will given a group discussion task first at the beginning of the learning. And for example, here, this map is called the user journey map. And imagine if the students are going to discuss to establish a future chocolate factory, something like that. And they need to think about what is a storyline with different stages of establishing the chocolate factory, and also they can put the stickers where it is appropriate. For example, is it an action, or is it a touch point, or relevant to the pain points? So we discussed about the pain points for chocolate lovers, and this is what the AI has generated, although not so closely relevant, but we can always adjust and change. So feel free to try out using your account. As I can see, many of your mouses are moving around, and try use this AI feature to generate some stickers and put your sticker onto the relevant section to share your ideas with us. And now let's take a look at other options. For example, here we can also use this document function with the same prompts. And let's see what the AI can help us to generate with the same prompt. Thanks, Julianne, for raising this concern. Yeah, we would love to also to hear more about what are the serious accessibility issues you have encountered. That will be also very helpful. And here what we have seen is we generated a document within this collaborative board, and students can also generate this, or the teacher instructor can generate the document as instructors, or to intervene in the group discussion. And the third option is to generate images, as we are here talking about multimodal teaching, and we are not only available to generate text, but also the images. And let's try to use the inclusive, the keyword provided, provided by BG16. And for example, inclusive access for Miro, as we just discussed about. So this is just a very simple prompt. Obviously, we can further improve it, but for this short demonstration, I will just quickly show you. And let's see how the AI will generate a picture relevant to what we talked about. Okay, so this is what AI understands what is inclusiveness access for Miro, and which is quite abstract for this context. And feel free to try other more meaningful prompts using your keyword. And you can see we can easily drag and put the image onto the main canvas. And we can also put it elsewhere that we think is appropriate for students' work. So for this quick demonstration, I'm also watching the clock. We have 5 minutes. So feel free to explore the function. We can also use AI to generate the workflow, as I have generated here as an example. And due to the time limitation, I will back to the presentation and continue. And you're welcome to explore. I'm also checking the chat. I will come back to the chat later. So we just tried out a quick demo of the Miro bot based on a user journey map, which you can find the link here. And you can also explore more richful template for different use. Because I teach design thinking, so user journey map is the first stage for emphasis in the design thinking process. So I have used this function to encourage student engagement. As you can see from the screenshot, not only the AI features help the students and instructor to quickly generate text and images, but also we can use the share video function, and the students can also easily create a video using the video track function. And also we have the voting features to further encourage students' engagement, and also the polling features. So now let's quickly take a look at what I have done specifically in the class to teach design thinking through the 5 stages: emphasize, define, ideate, prototype, and test, for students to learn how to do instructional design based on design thinking. And traditionally, we usually provide a shared board, whiteboard, for students to share their ideas together, as the picture shows. And what I have done using the Miro board, what you can see here are the screenshots of the students' work. So students worked in group, and they use these different templates to work on different topics, and they design the storyline for the digital education curriculum for different stages. As you can see here, these are the user journey map. This is the user journey map for the dental education. This is for the chess education. And also they use the mind map, the Scamper mind map, for the define stage to define the problems. And also, as I mentioned earlier, it is very helpful and valuable. We explore the user shared case from the Miro. Miro has a Miroverse, which I always look into and search what other people's best practice, which can inspire me for further practice. And another reflection from my own teaching is a combination of these different tools. Our university, we use Moodle, as you can see from this screenshot, and this is a Moodle forum. So I integrate the use of Miro and also the forum to facilitate students' group work. And I think from the module questionnaire feedback and also from the previous research study, we find that it is important to clarify the group task and individual task, especially using Miro to facilitate group work. Because as we can see on Miro, students can work individually apart, no matter where they are. So there's no limitation for their physical location. But if we want to encourage students to work as a group, then we also need to clarify the group task and make it clear, and maybe also provide some evaluation rubric so that they can do peer review to better improve their work. And also, although this group is focusing on using multimodal teaching technique, but also I used it for assessment. And this is the e-portfolio example. As you can see, the students can demonstrate their video of using the Miro. As you can see here, this is an example. And I asked the students to record the video. The resolution for this one is not very high, because considering the video size, the students has lowered the resolution.